You already know our next guest. She is the confidence creator, a published author, a fellow podcaster, an entrepreneur, and all-around badass. She's also a mom and a great friend. Her name is Heather Monahan, and she's here to talk about her most recent TEDx talk, which you're going to love. If you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you do so. We're going to drop that link so you can watch it on the show notes, or you can also find it on Heather's Instagram at Heather Monahan. Let's get started with today's show. All about confidence, all about boosting yourself. This one is definitely one you're going to want to share. This is Chats with Gigi, your space for growth, inspiration, and learning, covering the topics that matter to women everywhere, empowering you in your personal and professional life. Are you ready? Here we go. First of all, let me tell you something. I'm so excited to have you back in the studios. Heather, this is so much fun. Welcome again to Chats with Gigi.
Thank you so much for having me.
So the last time that I had you on the show, remember we were talking about your book.
It just came out. Yeah.
It had just come out. You did an incredible speech for all of the ladies here at iHeartRadio. Incredibly empowering. When we got you in the studios, one of the things you mentioned to me was, I never would have thought when I got fired that I would have come this far, and all the trouble that you went through to publish that book, and all of the people close to you that told you you're never going to do it. Are you crazy? What are you even talking about? And now we're here today. When we sat, the first time we sat across each other for this podcast, did you think that just about a year later, you would have come so much farther?
No, it's funny, especially with New Year's, being so close to today, I had not forecasted. I had planned on a lot of other things that didn't happen, but I never knew, what was going to happen and that I was going to do this TEDx talk.
And this it was watching you on that stage. I've spoken in front of crowds before, and I feel like it doesn't matter how confident you are speaking to a crowd. It must be nerve-wracking it is for me. Every time I got on a stage, I'm like, oh, don't screw this one up. What was that like for you getting on that stage?
I have to tell you, I'm a professional speaker now, which is also surreal and so bizarre. That's what my number one revenue stream in my business. So I speak all the time. I don't get nervous anymore when I speak. However, when I took that tiny red circle, I swear I almost passed out. You have a ticker, a timer I only got 10 minutes. It's running right in front of you. You can't leave the red circle. You're not supposed to move too much. There's all these restrictions around, like, it's not like giving a talk where you can just you're free to be you. Mm-hmm. It's a wrap everything around the big idea and don't leave the circle and don't miss the time marks and don't do this. And you're behind stage with all these people that never speak. None of them are, typically on stages. They're sweating. One guy was doing push-ups. Another lady was running around in circles trying to get rid of anxiety. And here's the thing. You take on that vibe when you're in it, right? So I could feel my heart start racing. I started panicking, and I just took a nosedive, and I was the first speaker, and they said, okay, and Heather, you're on, go. And I totally froze. I closed my eyes and I just said to myself, if you don't walk out there right now, you will never forgive yourself. If you go out there and bomb, I'm going to be so proud of you. And I just removed all the pressure from myself and I just walked out and I just decided, even if I bomb, I'm just going to be proud of me that I took this little tiny red circle.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that moment and that inner dialogue and how powerful it is, which is part of the topic of your talk. It is to create for yourself a campaign of positivity. There is so much negative talk that we do to ourselves all the time. I don't look like her. I don't sound like her. I could be thinner. I need to do this, or I'm never going to get that promotion. Why am I even going to apply for that position? My boss is not going to let me out of my department. Why? And we don't even try. We block ourselves in. Talk to me about, for you, how important it's been to create that dialogue that encourages you and pushes you forward instead of holding you back.
Well, that was really, I attribute so much of my success in my life and in my business to the fact that I ask. So I really lean heavy on that. I look back when I was first in media and I wanted to be the VP of sales of a company I was working for. The job didn't exist. And I mentioned to someone, I'm going to go pitch the president that we need a VP of sales and here's why. And the guy said, you think you're the first person that ever thought of that? They said no to other people. And I said, you know what? I haven't asked yet. And I've kind of just lived my life that way. They didn't see that it was me asking for it. So I just started stepping into that ask. That's how I ended up on Gary Vee's podcast. I asked if I could go on. So putting yourself out there and just showing up as you with that intent that, hey, who knows? Why not me? There was never anything to lose with those things. And that's what's made me successful.
Can we stop and talk about Gary Vee for a second? I mean, first of all, when I saw you have your own podcast,
I do
also, which is incredible, and
I just launched it in May. That's right. I haven't seen you since.
Yes, and so I see it was your first episode. Is Gary Vee?
Yes. Go big or go home.
Yes. And I remember seeing the post about it and thinking, look at her go. Yes. Because he's so incredible. What was that like sitting across from him?
He's the most. I've interviewed so many people.
Yeah.
Sarah Blakely. I mean, so many big, huge, Ryan Serhant. But he's the most intense person I've ever interviewed. It's other level. His phone's going 900 million miles. There's 20 people surrounding him at all times. There are all these young guys on his team, and they're taking pictures and videoing, and everything's happening. It's really chaotic.
Yeah.
And he thrives in that environment. So I was nervous. I watched the video of me interviewing him, and my foot's going up and down because I'm nervous. Right? I mean, and I know for me, that's what I do when I get really nervous. But slowly, like anything, once you're in it, I saw my foot stop going because you're like, oh, I'm not dying. I'm actually just having a conversation. It's okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you can, and we all have that, those telltale signs that you know what they are and you watch yourself and you're like, oh, I hope nobody else notices that.
Wait, I did it in the TED Talk. In the TED Talk in the first minute, I'm walking and talking, and I said, she really didn't like me. And then I stopped and said, oh, she really didn't like me. And it was this total, I was about to lose what I was going to say next. So I just repeated the same thing again. And when you watch the TED Talk, you'll see. It's pretty funny.
I did watch it, and it's funny you should bring that up because I feel as I was watching it, when I saw that moment where you repeated yourself, it didn't come off at all to me as a viewer like you had lost your thread. It came off instead like, wow, she really didn't like her. Like that lady must have been a nightmare.
That is the case, but I was nervous.
I loved that you were able to tap into something true and really what it ended up doing. Whereas you thought, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose my thread. What it ended up doing, at least to me as a viewer, was really giving me emotion to connect with you and really be able to empathize and say, I know who that girl is. We all have that girl. We all have had that girl at one point in our lives, in our career, that just wants to keep us down, that just wants to push us. Absolutely. And I feel like it's such an insecurity because 9 times out of 10, and correct me if I'm wrong, that comes from a woman who you are a threat to her because you're smart, because you're capable, because you're able. And that person thinks that by letting you move just a little bit, you might knock her out of the way. How do you deal with people like that? And I know that you talk about this so much and we've talked about it before, but for anyone who's listening to you for the first time and really needs to hear that message, how do you handle that person?
There's nothing you can do. Dimming your light is not going to get hers to shine more, right? So that's not the answer. I tried it. I tried. I'll make myself smaller. I'll kind of go away and be a shell of myself, and then she'll feel more comfortable. No, it doesn't work. It actually works the opposite way. She gained strength as I started shrinking, and she would treat me even worse. People treat you the way that you teach them to. So I was teaching her to ignore me, teaching her you could walk right by me. And then suddenly other people saw me being treated that way. They would follow suit. So suddenly I was diminishing who I was. I was losing the respect that I had built over 2 decades in business. And that's when I decided, you know what? I've been in advertising and sales for so long. Why don't I put an ad campaign together for me to elicit confidence within me? And that's the 5-step process that I walk everybody through. You know, choose your platform, choose powerful messaging and utilize it with frequency, develop a call to action to convert the opportunity, use a powerful image and add a music or a song bed so that you elicit emotion. And I ran that campaign for myself. I created confidence within myself, and I stood up to that bully.
And now you're doing that for so many other people, because I know that you're not only giving these talks, but you still have your book that you're promoting that is doing so well. And through your podcast, the underlying tone is always building that confidence and how important it is to be able to build that for yourself in any platform, no matter what it is that you do. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, there's value in everything that you do, and there's value in you as a person, regardless of your job title, and you need to have that confidence, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny you said that. I just did a post today on Instagram about people always asking, are you in a relationship? Are you single? Are you married? And I checked the box instead that says building my empire.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to fall into whatever label society wants you to be in. You can create the label that you want. You can just do it for you and know that you are valued, whether you're walking into a room with somebody or walking in alone. And that's why when you mention, you know, stay-at-home moms, I have a lot of mom friends that are stay-at-home moms that are relying on a man for income. And they are in tough situations sometimes, different than working moms, right? But they have their own challenges. And yes, they struggle with their confidence, their self-worth, their value, and what's special and unique about them a lot. So yeah, I see, and not only women are that way, right? It's just people in general that we live in this world where we're all judged and told what we can or can't do. And it's about really stepping into who you really are to, you know, find your happiness.
And that's exhausting. Measuring yourself against all of the things that you're supposed to do and by when you're supposed to, because it's not just a list of things you're supposed to do. There's a timeline to them too. You're supposed to have been married by this age. And if you want to have kids, you have to, and if you have better, oh my gosh, it's exhausting. Whereas if you just detach from that and tap into yourself and tap into, well, what is it for me that's going to bring happiness? What is it for me that's going to make me feel valued? And what kind of words and things do I need to hear from other people? And do I need to say to myself in order to feel empowered? And let's talk about that too, the circle of people around you. I saw a recent post that you had on LinkedIn where there was a person with a lot of knowledge on a board, right? That said to you, well, you picked a really crappy topic for your TEDx talk.
Yes.
You did well, you delivered, blah, 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 but this topic is not marketable. And you wrote on the post that you had felt defeated. And I can see that. I can see somebody who is around you in the circle of experts, right? That's guiding you or giving you advice or whatever. Sometimes these are people you hire. As an entrepreneur, you hire people that know more than you in different things. And one of these people says to you, you just made a really crappy choice.
That was so frustrating. It was the president of a speaker bureau, an absolute expert in the speaking industry, which I'm a rookie and I've only been doing this for a year now. And so I really rely on those experts for their advice and direction. And this was negative feedback about the topic of my TEDx talk. And you know what's interesting on that post, and I really appreciated, someone jumped in on that thread and said, yeah, Heather, maybe it wasn't the most marketable topic for you to address when you're trying to book more corporate audiences, right, and corporate gigs.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't, and I could understand that, right? I get it. However, it was my truth, and it was something that was important to me. And someone mentioned on that thread, well, yes, he may be right. However, we don't know what's going to happen with this TEDx talk yet. We're not 2, 3, 4 years down the road yet. Let's see how it plays out. Something much bigger might come from it. And I like that way of thinking, that perspective and that choice to say, yes, he makes a good point. It might not have been the right corporate America play, but it was the right play for me and for something much bigger.
So I want to get into that because there's so much value in that. There is so much value in knowing, all right, so this may not be the most marketable, but this is what rings true in my heart. This is my most authentic that I can be in this TEDx talk right now. With all the limitations, with the red circle, with the ticking time, you need to be able, when you're putting yourself out there, to do it with your whole heart and to do it with what you truly believe in, because going out to sell somebody else's truth is not going to get you very far, very long. So for someone who is just starting to step into that fear, the way you say, for someone who is looking at what's on the other side of being terrified and just now starting to say, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that leap. Where would you say that is the line for that person in taking good advice and in knowing this is good advice, but I need to go with me?
At the end of the day, there's one voice and opinion that matters, and it is your own. And it took me a long time to learn that. I used to take on other people's self-limiting beliefs. Don't be an author, Heather. You're good in sales. Stick to that. Well, I'm here to tell people I blew up those lanes. I don't allow myself to be put in lanes anymore. I just take my talents and go wherever I want, whether it be launching a podcast, doing a TED Talk, or being an author. show up as you. And when you do that, you don't have to go into somebody else's lane that they want to put you in. So at the end of the day, get real with you, journal, listen to your inner voice, and tune out all the other noise. That's how you'll find your right answer.
And there's no word that can come from the outside that could ever shake you when you've done that.
Well, no, listen, I got that feedback from the expert and I felt defeated. I felt like crap. And I did second guess myself. It doesn't matter how confident you are. Of course, you're going to have those moments where you say, oh, geez, was that a good decision or not?
Yeah.
That's okay. But in the end, I know I was true to me. I did follow my inner voice. So I'm going to hope to, that things work out in the end and that it pays off. I don't know what the future holds. I just know that I followed what I felt inside, and that leads you to good places. So
you mentioned a few practices that I assume are also your own, such as journaling and listening to that inner voice. What is your morning routine like if you have one?
No, it's, what's so funny, and people probably don't want to hear this. every day is different, right? So my son didn't have school today. That's a very different day than tomorrow. It's 6 a.m. We leave the house. He has to be at his bus stop. It's completely intense, and it's not. I heard some speaker was like, oh, I meditate for the first 45 minutes. My husband takes the baby. No, I don't have some life like that, right? It's total chaos. Everything is moving fast. I get him to school, and then I come home and I go over my to-do list. I'm always focused on how can I work out, because that's my stress relief, and how can I fit that into my schedule. But then every day is different. Tomorrow I'm leaving for Los Angeles to go work on my podcast. I'm there for the rest of the week. Every day is so incredibly different. So it's more just the mindset and living with passion and purpose. I get so excited for, what I'm doing, because I'm just really showing up as the real me that, I don't know, every day is really exciting. And I lead with gratitude every day for sure.
So working out keeps you centered. It gets that stress off, right?
Thank
Journaling,
God.
You said, is a big one for you.
Yes, journaling's been a big part of my life.
And gratefulness.
Oh, yeah, gratitude's, I make my son every day say, give me 3 things you're grateful for today.
That is amazing. Definitely something that we're going to take and continue to apply. And I want to thank you again for joining us today. What's next for you? Because I know that you are celebrating this TEDx talk, but I know you've always got something in mind. I know you're always moving forward. So what can we expect next?
Well, I just finished writing my second book, so I'm working on the book proposal right now to get that book launched and bring it live. I'm going to LA this week, and I'm meeting with an MBA team. I'm interviewing Ed Milet for my podcast.
Wow.
I'm meeting with my podcast one team about how we can take my show to the next level and how we can promote things more. So there'll be some exciting things happening there. And I'm back to my same last year for my New Year's resolution. I wanted my first book to become a movie, and I targeted Reese Witherspoon as a person I wanted to meet to produce it. I have not met with her yet, although she does have my book. Maria Menounos delivered it to her and told her that we believe this needs to become a movie. So that's something that I'm still working on, and some other exciting things that will come out this year for sure.
That's incredible. You already gave me a list of like 20-something amazing things and some other stuff that I've got in the back burner. Love it.
I also feel like you never know. I didn't know I was going to launch a podcast last year, and I didn't know I was doing the TEDx talk. So I got asked to do another TED Talk in December of 2020. So I'm doing
That's amazing.
Doing another one. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So that's the one where you're going to tell everybody why you have a cardboard cutout of yourself in a gorgeous red dress, if I may add, right?
Why
you
did
promised.
I do that to myself? Yeah, I guess I have to answer that one.
So we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you check out Heather Monahan's TEDx Talk. You can find the link on her Instagram at Heather Monahan or on the show notes for this episode of Chats with Gigi. Also, her book, The Confidence Creator, is going to quickly become one of your favorite reads. Take it from me. I'm Gigi Diaz. Love to know what you thought about the episode. Once you've checked out the TEDx Talk, join the conversation. Always using the hashtag Chats with Gigi, or, you can find me all over social media as Gigi Diaz Live. And I always love to hear from you. If you haven't done so yet, please also make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you'll be the first to find out when we drop the next episode. Thanks for listening. It's Chats with Gigi.